Our sages are absolutely precise, not only in the information that they share with us, but the way in which they impart that information. If you take the Rambam as an example, he created a 14-volume encyclopedia of Jewish law that is letter perfect. Everything is thought through. Everything is seen in the context of the entire work. And everything is placed exactly where it should be placed to teach us even more than what the words themselves tell us. That's why it's interesting that the Rambam teaches the following principle. In spite of the fact that there's a decree, in other words, a mitzvah in the Torah to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, the shofar also alludes to a message about how we're supposed to respond, which is, wake up and do teshuvah, return to Hashem. And he goes into detail about what exactly that means. The reason it's fascinating is because the Rambam includes that information not in the laws of the shofar, but in the laws of teshuvah, which is a whole different section of his encyclopedia. Now we have to ask ourselves the question, why? Surely you're telling us about the shofar, and when we look in the section about the shofar, you tell us that there is a mitzvah to blow the shofar. You tell us how to blow it. You tell us what constitutes a kosher shofar, what disqualifies a shofar. So why speak about the message of the shofar, the theme of the shofar, in a completely different section in the rules of teshuvah? Besides that, the Talmud tells us that one of the key reasons we blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah is because it is part of the process of inaugurating or coronating Hashem as King of the world. You can imagine a regular human coronation. They blow trumpets. So in a similar vein, we blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah to show that we accept Hashem's authority over us. The Talmud mentions it. The Rambam does not. And you have to ask the question, why not? If you analyze what the Rambam illustrates to us, he effectively illustrates that the shofar has three components to it, which correspond to the three major themes of Rosh Hashanah. The first theme is we develop a relationship between ourselves and Hashem through the things that we do. When we follow Hashem's instructions, we observe his mitzvahs, that develops closeness between us, and that creates an opportunity for relationship and connection. And if, God forbid, we ignore any of his instructions, that could harm the relationship. So the shofar is a mitzvah. It's part of building that relationship. That's the first thing we have to know about the mitzvah of shofar. It is mandated by the Torah. It is part of how we create connection between ourselves and God. But then there's something alluded to. The Rambam uses the words. It hints at something else. And any time that something is alluded to, that means it's not so obvious because it is more profound than what strikes you immediately. And that is the theme beyond the mitzvah of the shofar, that this is something that arouses us to do teshuvah. And as we have already identified, the capacity for teshuvah means that we dig deeper within ourselves and we find a part of our relationship with God that is always solid in spite of the things that we may have done which are misaligned. It is this depth of relationship between us and Hashem that is so profound that it allows us the opportunity to reconnect even when we have made decisions that disconnect us. That's not the law of the shofar. That's the ethos of the shofar. That is not what is stated in the Torah as thou shalt. That is the messaging that lies between the lines of the bigger message of the shofar and by extension of Rosh Hashanah. Teshuvah. And it's not unique to the day of Rosh Hashanah. We know that it extends over the 10-day period. And then there is something about the shofar that is so profound and so core to what the shofar and by extension Rosh Hashanah is about that it doesn't even get recorded in an halachic work. The Talmud will discuss it because the Talmud discusses topics that are beyond the scope of what's pragmatic day-to-day Jewish living, but rather speaks about the essence of what it is to be Jewish. So the Rambam, who is a book of law, doesn't get into this conversation because it's beyond the law. It's even beyond the part that repairs the law. It's beyond the mitzvah to blow a shofar. It's even beyond the teshuvah that you do if you missed blowing the shofar. It is the most profound element of our connection to Hashem. It is not only blood is thicker than water. It is not only because we are his children and he is our father, and therefore there's a loving relationship that can excuse the things that we have done wrong. There's an element of the shofar that captures the essence of Rosh Hashanah, which in turn expresses the essence of who we are, one with the King. That's why we can elicit from the King of all kings the interest in being engaged in our world, in running our world, and in blessing us. And that's the core of what Rosh Hashanah is, to discover the unstated, the indescribable part of who we are, the part of us that intersects with God at our essence connected to his essence.